Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Make sure you like, subscribe, become a member. You can follow me on Twitter. And leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Look, man, there's a whole lot going on in the sport of boxing. But Errol Spence, of course, people are talking about it. The rumor that he could be fighting Tim Tszyu. There's a whole lot going on as far as what it may take to make that fight. But look, it's there are credible boxing voices that are reporting that Errol Spence, there were some talks about him returning this year. And it could be against Tim Tszyu. But they're trying to work out the business details. Now, trainer Robert Garcia and former fighter Paulie Malignaggi have publicly said they've heard discussions about the fight being targeted for early to mid-2026. Could be in Australia or Las Vegas as a comeback start for Spence. Now, I'm going to say that Tim Tszyu is no comeback fight. Ozzy, oi, oi, oi. But while this match is being talked about, Errol Spence, 28 wins, 1 loss, 22 knockouts, hasn't fought since 2023 when he lost to Terrence Crawford. That loss ended his welterweight peak and has prompted questions about his future, understandably so. Now, Tim Tszyu, 29-3, 18 KOs, former WBO junior super welterweight champ. He's at a crossroads, man, and this fight is dangerous. He can't afford a setback and is rebuilding momentum. And I'm going to tell you, Errol Spence is not the kind of fight you take to try to rebuild momentum. But we know Tim Tszyu's got heart, and so does Errol Spence. Now, there are some logistical and promotional hurdles. Spence's U.S. team, likely PBC, Tszyu's interest in Australia would have to negotiate purse splits, broadcast rights, venue rights. It always comes down to the politics of boxing and the Wu-Tang cream, cha-ching ching, dollar bill, y'all. But when it comes to timing, look, neither fighter has a firm, publicly announced date yet. Business details are still being sorted out, so there are huge hurdles. The fight may not even happen, but the fact that it was mentioned, we got to talk about it. But there's some risk versus reward that we should talk about. Both fighters bring legacy weight, but a world title isn't guaranteed on the line, not yet, which complicates sanctioning and marketing because, they're going to figure out a way to put some kind of title on the line. Now, fans are excited about Errol Spence. They are excited. They love Errol Spence. They don't care what he does, win or lose. They support Errol Spence 100%. But they're also worried, you know what I mean? There's a lot of hype around Spence. We know what he brought to the table, technical brilliance, before Crawford, considered one of the elite, the guy at welterweight. And some felt is of his generation, the jab, pressure, ring IQ, power, that mentality. But there's a legacy opportunity for Errol Spence. A successful return would reignite conversations about him being among the greats. And Terrence Crawford's retired. So for Errol Spence to come back, he would immediately become, recognized as the big dog. Does he have some work to do? Yeah, he's been out for almost 3 years. But even Jermell Charlo, people don't really, give him the respect they deserve because of how he performed against Canelo. But unless you're in the ring, you have no idea what that man was experiencing. But he lost some credibility. But I think with Errol Spence coming back, he would get all the support he had and more. And a successful return will reignite those conversations. So the rosy narrative, fans love a comeback story, especially after a long layoff and a big loss. But this is the thing. Now hear this. Here's the real hesitation. Ring rust and health concerns. Spence has had long layoffs, man, between fights and concerns about how long layoffs, being in his mid-30s now, than the previous injuries, how they impact the performance and how those things are going to linger when it comes to fan discussing whether Errol Spence can come back and be in tip-top shape. And I'm going to say this. There's no guarantee of Errol Spence still being at his peak. So even if the fight happens, many are cautious whether he still has it, that same dominance that made him feared in the past. You know he has the mentality, but sometimes the body just doesn't cooperate. I'm 50. I'll be 51 this year. And when I go lift weights, when I go run, even when I go and hit the speed bag, heavy bag, can I do it? Yeah, but shit's different now. You know what I'm saying? At 35, I was still firing pretty good, but at 35, I started feeling shit. But I had a lot of damage to my body, man, from just being super active. But I'm sure Errol Spence is feeling things that, he would never disclose to us. So makes you wonder if he could come back and assert that same dominance that made him feared in the past at 147, at 154, a little bit different. You see, real boxing fans know Tim Tszyu is exciting. And I think that's what some fans fear. They're like, yo, Tim Tszyu's comeback energy is crazy. Crazy. He started fresh with legendary trainer Pedro Díaz. I didn't know anything about Pedro Díaz until he hooked up with Miguel Cotto. And I saw him out there puncturing Miguel Cotto's finger and putting blood in something and measuring oxygen levels. Then to come find out he's from Cuba and he has a PhD in something. But he's a smart-ass dude, okay? See, those things don't get talked about enough. Pedro Díaz has an effing PhD. The dude is brilliant, okay? So when he's working with athletes, he knows what he's doing. But what I think is, Tim said being under Diaz has made him fall back in love with boxing again. And I think Tim Tszyu is feeling good, someone to believe in him. Sometimes you just need to just turn the page, get a fresh start. And I think what Pedro Díaz is trying to do with Tszyu is just kind of fashion him after that classic Cuban technique and discipline training. Tszyu has spoken about rediscovering his joy for the sport. An intangible that often separates contenders from pretenders, and a guy like Tim Tszyu who needs that to get beyond those demons of the two Fundora losses and the Murtazali of destruction. But Tim Tszyu is the real deal. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Early returns in the Diaz have already shown patience and tactical polish as positive in the ring, which is what he needs. But I'm going to tell you, some fans are worried. They say, yo, Tim Tszyu is under so much pressure to win, so much pressure to perform. He lost multiple high-profile fights, and at 31 knows another defeat to someone like Spence could harm his legacy and marketability. So even for me, I'm like, I want to watch it because I'm a boxing fan, but I'm like, both of them have everything to lose, So the style versus effectiveness, while fans appreciate his heart, they also recognize defensive lapses and vulnerability against elite skill sets, unless he truly levels up under Pedro Díaz. Now, what makes this interesting is the trainer storylines, pivotal differences and what they may mean, and I'm just going to tell you. Now, there is no confirmation of this. This is just me on the outside, right? Looking in, me brainstorming out loud. Robert Garcia, elite track record. Errol Spence I don't think he has a trainer right now. He may be working with somebody, which I'm pretty sure he is. But I think at some point in time, when you look at a guy like Robert Garcia, who's trained 16 plus world champions, was the ring trainer of the year in 2024, would probably be this year. And he's known for creating balanced fighters, blending offense with the defense, helping fighters grow their ring IQ. And I'll say this, what Robert Garcia does for his fighters, he builds technical discipline and ring IQ. That's why when you watch fighters under him, they're not just brawlers, but they're tactical performers in the ring. And he fosters that team culture, emphasizing humility, work ethic, and cohesion. Robert Garcia is no joke as a trainer. That's why almost anytime his fighters fight, they win. They got something special over there. And that's what I think for Errol Spence. We'll see what he's going to do. But this is why some fans are out here talking, especially a guy like me, about Robert Garcia and Errol Spence and how the two of them coming together would be something outstanding. Especially after I heard Robert Garcia mention that Errol Spence is going to be returning, but he also noted that for Spence to be credible in a fight on this level, the comeback performance needs to be sharp. And, a warm-up fight is really important. People forget Robert Garcia he's a retired boxer. He was a world champion. So I think Garcia will be a good fit for Spence, potentially anyway. And here's why. Garcia's fighters often show improved defense, improved overall defense, offense awareness, adaptability, and IQ growth. It makes me think about when he worked with Marcos Maidana's comeback. That speaks to his ability to revive confidence and tactical discipline. Maidana, his career was over. He lost to Devon Alexander. Devon just had his way with him. Maidana was lost. Somehow found his way to Robert Garcia's gym. And Maidana later gave, I feel like I'm about to die, right? Goddamn bronchitis. That's what I get for running in that 40-degree weather, Don't do it, people. But I got to stay in shape. I just should have done it inside the gym. But when Marcos Maidana lost to Devon Alexander, that was crazy. But he found his way to Robert Garcia's gym, ended up fighting Floyd Mayweather, and gave Floyd Mayweather what many say was Floyd's toughest fight. But everybody's going to have an opinion about everything. Not everybody's going to agree. But what I can say is, Garcia coaching someone like Spence could theoretically help Spence develop a more complete, less one-dimensional approach. After years of elite welterweight competition and then fighting in a new weight division at 154. And it would be very interesting because Tim Tszyu with Pedro Díaz. And he had Olympic, and he has Olympic and has a professional pedigree, man. He's worked with a lot of fighters. Most people would know about Miguel Cotto, about Rigondeaux. But he has a scientific methodology, trying to blend conditioning, tactics, mental preparation. So Tim Tszyu picked him for a reason. And he says that when he was 15, he really loved the sport of boxing. He kind of lost it, but now he has it again. So I think sometimes fighters just want to feel appreciated. And that's why Tim Tszyu has no problem working on his skill application, ring intelligence, patience, and just humbling himself and saying, okay, I don't know everything. And was able to shift from raw aggression to being more thoughtful and patient inside that ring. So whose trainer would be more effective for this fight? This is where, the nuanced boxing analysis shines. I would like to hear Paulie Malignaggi and those guys talk about it because they would have interesting perspectives. I'll say this. Robert Garcia for Spence, I think he would focus on tactics, defense, ring IQ, could help Spence adapt to a new division and patch ring rust. Downside could be Spence's age, inactivity, trying to transform the technique. Just wonder if Errol Spence can physically execute. Also the sparring at Robert Garcia's gym. The sparring ain't no joke. So you don't know if the sparring is going to be so aggressive and so tough to where all of a sudden it sheds some life off of Errol Spence. But the bottom line, man, they say fights are won in the gym. So that may be what Errol Spence needs to really see if he truly does have it. And if he does, full steam ahead. If not, just go ahead and wave the white flag and don't risk getting yourself hurt any more than take any more damage than you've already taken. Now, as far as Pedro Díaz for Tim Tszyu kind of showed it, man. Smart technical growth, motivation, rebuild. You can just listen to Tim Tszyu, and he just like mentally invigorated and learning fundamentals that could help him last and adapt instead of just looking for the mashup crasher. But the downside, because there's always a downside when you talk pros and cons, right? The stylistic changes take time and may not fully manifest without several quality fights in the Diaz system. So this could be a great opportunity for Errol Spence if Tim Tszyu is still not doing things instinctively and really thinking a lot. That could give a guy like Errol Spence coming off of some inactivity a chance to really pounce on him and let his hands go. No matter who Errol Spence is training with. But I do think if Errol Spence was training with Robert Garcia, I think Errol Spence would be a totally different animal. That's just my opinion. If they had this fight in Australia, it would be as big or maybe bigger than Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao. It could be the biggest event in Australia ever when it comes to boxers. And I think it will captivate the nation, put Australian boxing on the global stage. And I think the scale and narrative of a local hero like Tim Tszyu challenging an international legend will likely replicate or even surpass that of cultural impact, especially if Tim Tszyu wins. So there's a lot at stake. Money, culture, is going to be a huge ticket demand if they can bring this fight together. Global viewership, potential, a lot of money. But it's going to be a huge opportunity to cement Tszyu as Australia's most significant fighter since Costa Tszyu, his father, and potential for Fight of the Year buzz, and where it does the same thing for Errol Spence that it does for Tim Tszyu. If both fighters enter in peak condition, where there are no excuses, it just ends up with a better man winning. Anyway, Errol Spence and Robert Garcia, that's just me thinking outside the box. I would like to see it happen. But boy, if it did, I 100% believe Errol Spence, who already has a kind of pressure style cutting the ring off, I just think Robert Garcia would turn that dude into even more of a monster. But if you ask me what I think, I don't think Errol Spence should return. I don't. I think he should just chill out. He's got money, he's got family, beautiful kids, got a ranch. He can do whatever he wants. Kids, the great grandkids, everybody can do what they want. To me, Errol Spence should just chill out. But fighters going to do what they want. You know what I'm saying? So, y'all keep cool. I'll be back on here tomorrow, man. I'm about to go chill. Goddamn got the chitis. Running in that 40-degree weather. Don't do it, people. Wait till it warms up and run inside. Keep cool. I'm in the breeze.